Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
My name is Krys Fenner. The book I'm going to read today is actually a new series that we're working on with 5 other authors. It's the introduction, the prequel. So this is Rebel Tides. It is something that was co-authored with Livy Luciana, and she is one of the authors that will be writing a book, and the entire series will actually release starting next April. I'm really excited to read the beginning of it to you, and it's a project that I'm absolutely in love with already. Chapter 1. Galatia glanced over her shoulder at the humanoid creature. It resembled a human, except for the magic it seemed to possess and the pint-sized bony wings protruding from its back. At least it couldn't fly with those things. She turned and ran out of the forest toward the beach. None of this had been what she'd been searching for since her arrival. All she had to find. Stepping out of the edge of the forest, her eyes fell upon a bridge about 50 feet in front of her. Finally! The bridge from her vision swarmed ahead. Now she just had to. A swoosh of air came up behind her, lifted her in the air, and slammed her backside down on the ground. Fuck! Her left wing burned as grains of sand made their way into the gaping hole in her wing. Galatia pushed up on her hands and spotted the humanoid creature fast approaching. She got on her feet. He could manipulate the air. Well, she could too. Tired of running, she opened her mouth and sang. Her angelic voice carried across the wind and soothed the anger the creature compelled. Her song didn't require words, just the melody. As she closed the distance between her and the humanoid, her aria stilled the wild wind and its manipulator. She placed one hand at the nape of its neck and reached for the dagger tucked into the belt of her pants. With one swift move, she removed the blade from its hiding place and thrust it into the creature's gut. It grunted as black blood spewed from its wound, and then it dropped to the ground with a thud. Her heart pounded beneath her chest. The last of the tune left her lips. Galatia leaned over, yanked her dagger from its body, and wiped it clean using her pants. There was no time to waste. She didn't know how many of those things had followed her. Returning the dagger to its rightful spot, she took off for the bridge. Her talons dug into the gritty white grains as she ran toward freedom. It took longer to reach the bridge than if she'd been able to fly. Damn arrow had taken a small chunk out of her wing. It'd be useless for the next day. With the bridge a few feet away, Galatia stopped. The first board of the wooden bridge had some sort of weird engraving. Setting the image, she walked closer and looked across the bridge. Well, half the bridge. Fog gathered somewhere around the middle, a good 30 yards ahead. Still, each board had a different engraving, although after so many they began repeating. One in particular caught her eye. 5 or 6 panels in, she noticed a familiar leer. Her ears prickled. She peered over her shoulder once again. This was the bridge in her vision. As for what she'd just seen, there was no time to contemplate it. Galatia started across the bridge. Halfway across, the fog grabbed her and yanked her through some invisible field. The barrier rippled outward as it carried her forward and tossed her out the other side. Her legs and arms flailed for a brief moment until she face-planted and landed in more white sand. With a small groan, she pushed up on her arms and faced the shield that had been there. It billowed out in an iridescent wave. What the hell? Her pulse quickened. Where in good Demeter had she ended up? Another realm? Getting to her feet, Galatia scanned her surroundings. A tall cliff stood a few feet away. Behind her, the waves crashed into one another as the sun set below the horizon. Nothing about this flight. Her mind's eye opened and tossed her against the jagged rock of the towering cliffside. In her head, the scenery changed. The beachy sand disappeared, and in its stead she saw overgrown grass and a forest full of thick, tall trees. The woods around her were so lush she almost missed the dark-haired person with green wings that ran by. Not that she noticed the face, or the eyes, but something about this person. It seemed familiar. Galatia gasped as the vision left her head and practically threw her back to the pebbly sands beneath her feet. She leaned against the rugged seaside cliff and closed her eyes to settle her thundering heartbeat. Man, things really needed to get easier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. I have the amazing Miss Krys Fenner with us today, and she just gave us a really exciting and captivating reading. So, you guys ready to get started? Because I am. Hi, Miss Krys. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. I'm so glad you joined us today. So we're going to jump right into this because you got me all hooked on this book, and then you stop, and I was like, What's the rest of it? Tell me, what is this prequel about? Give me a little more, and then tell me about the series.
Rebel Tides is the introduction to the Prisma Isle series. In Rebel Tides, you have two heroines. You have Thalasia, who is a siren, and you have Ariella, who is a dragon shifter. These two women come across each other when Thalasia accidentally kind of breaks the barrier between Prisma Isle and Candescent Isle. So they have to figure out a way to work together and repair the damage. That's the introduction. There are a total of 6 different species that are all impacted by this broken barrier. The creature that she fights in the beginning is a Gyler. It is actually kind of the opening that they have been looking for centuries. With this barrier now down, they are going to be able to invade Prisma Isle from Candescent Isle. And that is what these 6 different books are going to deal with, as well as some other things that are going on and have been kind of slowly happening in Prisma Isle. You have issues with the sirens, you have issues with manticores and the chimeras, there's the fairies, and then of course the shapeshifters. There's going to be all kinds of different stuff. Certain people, they're going to take advantage of the fact that this barrier breaks.
You have an entire world that is absolutely blown away. How did you decide to come up with the series with different authors? Because you're telling me there's a group of you guys working on this.
It originally started, the 6 of us were actually working on another project with these species that we had chosen. Originally, it was supposed to be they were all in school together. We had some issues, so we decided to pull out of the project, but we liked the species that we had created. So what we decided to do was to advance them in age a little bit. We came up with this overall isle, Prisma Isle, and we started working as to what we thought would work for the story. Like, okay, what if there were no witches or no warlocks? What if an enchantress died and she basically shot her magic into the air when she died and released it to humans? What would happen then? It kind of took off from there. So that's how the Gylers were born. The enchantress dies. When she releases her magic, they are now all imbued with dark magic. It infects them so that they end up with deformities. So like the bony wings that are protruding from its shoulders. So the more they use it, the more deformities they have. So we came up with ideas and we said, so we've now got fairies, we have manticores and chimeras. We've actually altered them from what they generally look like. We have shapeshifters. We have a new frog species that's also magically imbued. You have the sirens, and typically with sirens, you think of mermaids. Nope. These are all based off the Greek mythology. They are half bird, half human. And then,
wow.
Yeah.
That is intense.
And then you've got the dragon shifters. And then, of course, you have what I call the other part of the sirens, and you have half-breeds. There's going to be a lot going on with this, and some of these creatures you're going to actually get introduced to in Rebel Tides. You come across some of the fairies, some of them just get mentioned. There's all kinds of different things going on. You're even going to find that there's some love going on in there too.
I'm so blown away at the fact that you have an entire universe very well developed so far. I was like, wow. How do you start this project? Do you start it? Does somebody picks it up? How does this work when you have 6 different authors bringing all of your talents to the table to create a series? Like, who decides what book do you write on? Do you all write in the same book? Do you pick and choose? How does that work?
I'm actually the one who's leading everything. And what we've decided to do is we're actually, because there's individual stories going on with each species, we have our overall story that each species is going to be involved with. So there's going to be interaction and collaboration in some of the book. For example, in my book, there's a dragon shifter, technically a saint beast. There's a dragon shifter that goes along with it. And there's a shapeshifter that will probably make an appearance. There's a manticore that's going to make an appearance. So you've got all these different things that are going on, at least in one book. But they are all centered around my main part of the story. And then the same thing with the other books. So what we decided to do is we're actually going to release these as a series, and we're going to release them starting April 21st of next year, and they're going to be one book each week. The order is based off of where everything is happening, because all of this is kind of going on simultaneously. The order, maybe you may have the fairies first, and then you may have the frog species. So it's all going to be stuff that's happening simultaneously, but whatever happens in future books, you won't see in the early books. So there is a lot that we've had to keep track of. We have timelines that we're creating, not just for what's currently happening, but what has happened. It's gone pretty far back. There's work with map person, there's work with illustrators, and it's all stuff that's being organized by me because my publishing company is actually taking this task on.
Krys, this is huge. Like, you are
Yeah.
creating a universe. I'm trying to rationalize all slowly in my head that I'm going, we got timelines, you have an entire creation process, you got bits and pieces of everything, and you're the mastermind behind it. Question.
Yes.
No pressure. How are you
Yeah.
feeling?
Sometimes I have days where I'm a little nervous about it. But I also get excited about it too. From the work that I've done with some of these other authors, I mean, we've worked on some of these small scenes from the work that Livy and I did on Rebel Tides. Even while I was at an event last week, my mind was churning. It was just, there were so many things. And it's like, these characters are coming at me like, why aren't you working on us? Why aren't you telling our story yet? You need to know, hello, are you listening to me? Is this thing on? And we're all the same way. We're all very passionate about it. And I think that's been our biggest asset because we have just fallen in love with what we've created.
It shows just by listening to you. It is that passion coming across, it's that excitement. There's so much detail in this universe that you're just bubbling with energy. So it's amazing. And it's also so much fun to listen to authors working with other authors, that everybody's in the same page. Everybody's going through the same motion instead of just somebody going in their own different directions. So that's really fun. What genre
Yeah.
is this?
So this is actually going to fall under urban fantasy. It is going to be new adult. You can expect cuss words. Some of it's going to be a little unique. Humans pretty much don't exist. Thalasia is probably one of the only ones that will actually have any kind of human words because she's been around them. She's not from Prisma Isles. Everybody else is. So you're going to have some unique takes here. Nothing has been done before. It's all unique takes on them. It's something to look forward to, not just as one of the authors working on it, but as a reader myself. But with all the different creatures that we have, the different species we have coming together, it's definitely urban fantasy.
It's my favorite genre, so I'm a little biased because I'm like, yes, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just me. Just me. When you guys decided to put this together, you guys were working on a different project. What motivated you to follow this path? Besides the fact that you love the characters, was there something about it that you said, yeah, this project needs to come to life?
There were some issues that we had with the previous project, and it had been ongoing. There were a lot of questions that we kept raising and a lot of things that we just didn't feel like were being addressed. Originally, when we came together, and I kind of knew the direction it was going to take, but when originally we came together, it was just a matter of it was just a rant session. It was like we all just wanted to get this on for other people who understood how we felt. And I made the offer. I said, hey guys, I'm in the process of getting my company converted, my publishing company converted. So if we want, what we can do is we can step away from that project and we can take these creations we've made with us and make something different. 24 hours. It started with one person and then just cascaded from there. Pretty much all of us left that project and we said, yeah, we took all of our creations, everything that we had put into it, and we took it all with us. That was actually dealing with them as teenagers when they were in, like high school age. We started considering, we said, do we really want to do the same thing? Because I said, something we could. We finally came to the decision that we didn't. We wanted to age them a little bit. None of us are really clean writers when it comes to, cuss words or anything of that nature, which means we probably all have that personality naturally. We said, you know what? Let's age them a little bit. And then we started coming up with the idea from there.
I love the process. I love hearing the creation as a whole and how well everybody clicked into this project, which is absolutely awesome. April is the release day and you're doing one a week.
Yeah. Yes.
You decided this, and why? That is amazingly insane. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I am. I am very ready for it. I am so ready for April to be here already. We considered doing it as one book, as an anthology, and we decided that it was going to limit us too much. We said, you know what we can do is we can actually make them all novella lengths. We can do that. That opens up our word count, opens up how big we can make these and exactly what we can do with these stories. And then what we'll do is we can release them one a week because it's 6 books. Technically, it's actually going to be So it's going to be 7 books total after Rebel Tides. Rebel Tides, if you add that in, it's 8. So you have the 6 species, their stories, and then you have a compilation. The compilation is going to actually have outtakes. It's going to have character profiles. It's going to have epilogues. Because there are certain things that may not be able to be covered in the books because they all link together, then you're going to have all that aftermath in that 7th book.
Oh, that is awesome. It is having the behind the scenes of the series after you get all the little pieces. I'm like, ooh, that is awesome and exciting.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little, just a tad bit, and let's talk
Okay.
a little bit about you. Tell us, how long have you been writing for?
I originally got into writing when I was in high school. I kind of left it behind for a little bit, but that's really when I fell in love with it, was when I was in high school. I've always had a natural creative process. I'm a gamer. I started off by playing Dungeons and Dragons and then got into White Wolf. So I got into werewolves and vampires and, live action role play. Absolutely loved it all. After high school, I kind of got out of that. I didn't really pick writing back up until about 2014, 2013. So about 7 years ago is when I picked it back up. And when I started working on writing again, I actually started working on my Dark Road series. That's been my passion for all these years. And it took me a little while to really get the first book together. I should say the first 2, because I kind of wrote them backwards. So I had the second book done before I had the first book. And then I realized that the second book really was the second book and it really needed a prequel. So I went back and wrote the first.
I like the fact that you realized, okay, let's back it up a little before we continue down this path and put it all together. I like that part. You've been writing for 7 years. You have a publishing company. When do you decided to start that? Because that's a whole different undertaking besides the writing side.
That was actually over the last year that I've decided
Okay.
that that was a direction that I wanted to go. I came to the conclusion that I wanted to help other writers to avoid the mistakes that I had made. And this was something that I think all writers should do. We're not competing against each other in a way we are, but our goal is to actually help each other. And the more we help each other, the better we are. We don't just better ourselves as human beings, but we also better ourselves as writers. So that was something that I've always known I wanted to do. And it was last year that really kind of started to see it as a passion. When this occurred, I was like, you know what? This is it. This is where it needs to be done. This is my first, outside of my own work, this is my first publishing idea, or first thing that I'll be publishing outside of my own stuff.
When you decided to do this, which is an amazing and beautiful goal that we need more people teaching other writers how to skip some of these like pitfalls that we all fall. What was your first thing that you wanted to teach them? What did you want them to learn?
I think one of the first things has just been trying to get them on the idea of following deadlines. That's the first thing. A couple of them are brand new. They've never really published anything before. This will be their first time getting anything published. So part of it has also been not just getting them to deadlines, but also getting them to work together, also getting them to the point of seeing exactly how background information helps with current information, working together on creating things like a timeline. I mean, we're slowly, every day, we're tackling these tasks and we're actually getting where we need to be. And it's a beautiful thing to watch happen. We have a folder set aside and I check it every day. I look to see what's been updated. And I checked it today and saw that there had been like so many changes to our timeline and so many things that had been added. And it was the best thing ever to wake up to on a Saturday morning. I was like, this is like just so amazing. This is just awesome. I love this.
You are glowing with pride over this project, and also you're taking on brand new authors, because that's a huge undertaking. Let's be honest, like what we think the writing world is and what a brand new author now thinks is night and day. How do you help them understand the reality based their expectations?
Letting them know, number one, that I'm there. So if they have questions, they can come to me. They can ask it. We have a group chat. They can ask it in the group chat, or they can ask me directly. And letting them know that, like, hey, and feel free to ask me if you don't understand something. Letting them know as well that I may not always be available, but I will come back to your question. It's also being completely transparent. So, like, I've told them pretty much every step along the way. So they know not only what I expect of them, but what they can expect of me. And that's one of the things I've even set up with deadlines. So with the deadlines, I don't just have their information or what deadlines they have, but I also have the deadlines for me as a publisher. This is what I'm working on. This is what we need to do. I told them, I said, okay, so we've got an illustrator. I have an illustrator that I work with. He worked with me on another series that I have. I said, okay, let's talk about what we need to get done. Do we need character images? Yes. Do we need emblems for each of the species? Yes. Okay. So let's reach out to him. Let me do, email introductions, and let's get going on that. I've explained to them that you'll get contracts from him. And I had him make slight changes to the contract that he and I had already established, so that it gave my publishing company permission to use these images that he's creating for them, that they get full rights to. It's not just knowing what I expect of them, but knowing what they can expect of me and being completely transparent with it all.
That is so huge in this business, because sometimes you feel all this stuff is going on behind the scene and nobody's explaining to you what's going on. So that is huge. Nice job, madam. What is your definition of success? Because you have done so much in so many different areas. How would you define success for you?
For me, I don't think it's monetary. Not just seeing my accomplishments, but seeing that what I write makes a difference. And that's what my goal has always been. From the first book that I started, somebody reaching out to me saying, hey, thank you for writing something like that. Thank you for making this clear and for sharing this story. Because there are so many things, so many bad things that we have happen in our world that don't get the light that they deserve. And we hide behind them. We say, we know there's human trafficking. We know there's suicide. We know there's rape, and we know all these things that happen, but we're constantly looking the other way. We're constantly not giving it attention. We're like, that's not going to happen to me, or that's not going to happen to somebody I know. It very well could have. We are so engrossed in being silent that we seem to have forgotten how to speak up anymore. We just want to stand on the sidelines and do nothing. My goal has been to put the words out there, put things out there that say, this is not okay. This is what happens from our silence. This is what happens when we stand on the sidelines. This is the result of that. I have had people tell me it's made a difference to them. I've actually had somebody who told me earlier that they spilled tea on one of the books that they got from me because it made her shriek and yelp. I was highly amused by that reaction. She said I wasn't allowed to put stuff like that in a book anymore. I said, really? I said, where's the fun in that?
That are some powerful messages that you're working with, and that you're able to deliver them and still make people connect with your work. Absolutely awesome, madam. Do you have a specific genre that you write in, or do you cross areas? What do you consider yourself?
I do cross genres. My Dark Red series falls under social issues because they are geared towards older teenagers, but they deal with rape, drug addiction, suicide, loss of a parent. Yeah, they deal with all that. You've got that. And then, of course, I've got my urban fantasy, which still tends to have a little bit of darker stuff going on, and which is not the Prisma Isle series that we're working on. But then you've also got the Prisma Isle series they're working on that will also fall under urban fantasy. And then I've got my romance. With that, I've got new adult romance and I have paranormal romance. So a little bit of everything.
Yes, you are. You're touching in many different areas. So it's really exciting. Do you have a favorite genre?
For me personally, I absolutely love paranormal romance. But I mean, I will completely pick up so many different things. I've got mystery books that I've picked up. I have horror books that I've picked up. I have fantasy. You name it, I probably have something in that genre.
It's a nice combination of a little bit of everything. So tell me, madam, if you can give a brand new author any advice, what would you tell them?
Start early.
I like that. Why?
It can take us years to get one book done. So I sit here and I think about the years that I didn't spend writing, and I feel like it's years that I wasted. But at the same time, I did read during those years. I was learning something, even if my writing wasn't where it could have been. I mean, it took me a while to get my writing to where it is now. But the earlier you start, and it's whether you're reading books, whether you're writing, never stop writing. Your writing will improve, even if you do nothing with it. It will continue to improve because you'll start to see your own errors. You will see it by reading other authors. You'll start to pick errors in their books.
I'm so excited about your project. And by the way, we're getting you guys back together. So I'm excited to have you and the whole cast. So we need to start planning for release date, because I want to hear all these different takes on what it was to work with 6 people and how they taken it.
That I can tell you they're a little nervous. But I told her, I said, guys, don't worry. I said, I will be there with you. I'm not going to throw you to the wolves. This is not happening tomorrow, you know.
It's going to be a blast, and they all get to talk to each other, so we get to pull from each other. So it's going to be a treat for our listeners to literally have 7 authors all in one room just sharing this process, because this is massive. And the fact that you're releasing 8 books all within 2 months, I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling it for you. I was like, this is intense.
Well, Rebel Tides is already available, so that is something, if they want to jump on, they could get that introduction. When I say introduction, it's 100 pages, so it's an introduction.
It works.
Exactly.
I love it. It's going to be exciting, and listeners, you need to stay tuned because this is going to be so much fun. We're switching gears now. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Absolutely.
Sweet. Fun, easy. Don't think too much about it. Let's see how you do. Ready?
Okay.
Lake or beach?
Beach.
Okay, I like. Romantic movie or action film?
Ooh, action film.
I would have thought romantic, but okay,
Yeah.
I like it. Sweet or savory?
Savory.
We're going to get a little tricky now. If your life was a movie, who will play you?
Me?
I actually like that.
If I had to pick an actress, I would say, hold on, I don't know anybody with purple hair. Mila Kunis.
Ooh, sassy. I love her. Here's the last one. This should be fun. If you could be a villain in any Disney movie, who would you be?
Ooh, in a Disney movie?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's tough. Ursula.
Why?
Because it's just, she's out there, you know, like her confidence is just like so overwhelming, and she's sure of herself and that she's going to accomplish everything she wants and get exactly what she deserves.
Ooh, I have never seen her portray that way, but you're absolutely right. I'm like, she just has that magnetism. So, Miss Krys, where can our listeners find you?
You can find me on the website. It's krysfenner.co. So, and Krys is Krys, the unique spelling, and it is .co. We all automatically want to put the .com. Find me on Amazon. You can find me on Twitter. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Facebook. I had to think. I was like, where else am I?
Awesome. Well, Madame, it has been such a pleasure to have you. Any closing remarks for us?
Keep reading. Stay strong.
Amen to that. And to our listeners, please go ahead, like this program, share it with your friends, tell somebody about it, invite them to come and join us for next week. Miss Krys, it has been such a pleasure to have you, and to everybody, thank you so much for listening to Inside the Minds of Authors. We'll see you again next week. Thank you.